So let's go ahead and talk about my day. I am one of those guys that runs a business. Here we are, as you know.
Right.
High stress business. So sometimes I just feel like, it's necessary to, calm things down a little bit. Maybe things aren't firing properly in my brain. I'm not sure. I had this formula produced and they said it was going to work, and it does for me. So can you kind of explain the...
And again, as you know, in our country, stress and anxiety seem to be the biggest problems. I deal in my private practice with people. How do I deal with stress? How do I deal with anxiety without taking benzos? Because benzos are causing a lot of deaths in our country, combined with other medications. So, if we put together a formulation with magnesium citrate, and I'll tell you, everybody, when I do blood tests for the magnesium level, everybody is low. So you put in a good amount of magnesium, which helps calm you, makes you feel better, helps decrease the anxiety. You put ashwagandha root in it, which I found is a great nutraceutical that helps, again, decrease the stress in your body, decreases anxiety. L-theanine is another product you put in here. So the combination of these is helping you decrease stress in your body, helps you deal with anxiety, and you're not stressed all the time, which, again, stress leads to weight. Stress leads to more anxiety. You shut down. You don't function well. So the combination, again, is making you feel better when you're decreasing stress.
Real good. Thank you.